Welcome everyone back to another night of horror. We are preparing for Halloween. We're watching scary movies, and you're gonna hear about it. You're gonna hear about the worst of the worst. The, the more murders, the better in this case. Although, there's different types of murders, so I guess we'll find out how that goes. This video might be demonetized within 2 seconds. I don't get monetized anyway. But we're back once again with another horror list to see who has the best taste in the worst taste.
Ah!
Exactly. We scream, you scream, we all scream, or these scream.
At the house fire at the family reunion.
While watching Scream.
Which one? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Or I think there's 5.
Yes.
Okay.
Scary movie.
Scary, I was gonna say.
Exactly. They're all scary movies, and that we're introducing everyone. It's who are you? Who's first?
It's me. I am the owl of spookiness, the KingBirb. Hoot hoot.
I am the Fex Slasher.
And I'm Scaredy Cat Sam.
Had a bit of Shaggy going on there, but yes, we have 4 people for this list this time. Peter is starting us off with another horror. I fucking can't talk today. Who's scared? I've got too many horrors on my mind.
Man.
Spooky.
So Peter, if you'd
Shall I
like, get us going.
begin? I'll begin with the xenomorph.
Oh darn, I got snipes.
Oh
no, we didn't see this coming because we totally didn't have a conversation about this before.
Oh, no.
Solid first example.
Yeah, so the definitive horror monster in my eyes, the acidic blood, the sharp tail, its extended tongue-like mouth that just noms you with its mouth, and then it's got a secondary mouth in there, the badass design mixed with its like perverse sense of sexuality to its design, the facehugger lifestyle being so just disturbing. There's great lore to this species. Their noise and their movements are so definitively monstrous. They've got really cool variants across the entire franchise, from everything from the movies to Aliens, Colonial Marines. There's just so much to this species as a whole. And I really gained an appreciation for it playing it, especially in Dead by Daylight after wanting it in the game from seeing the movies.
I mean, that's always been my main in Dead by Daylight.
I watched the movie the first movie earlier this year, and it was good. I didn't get scared, but I also am realizing that things just don't scare me like they used to. But also, it's just very intelligent. Like, even the base ones are pretty smart.
Plus, they've got the whole hive mind thing going for them.
It's so scary. And then when you get to experience it in Alien Isolation.
Insert the Sam clip.
Is that way I have to go? Oh! I should be dead. I should be very dead.
Yeah, as stated, Alien Isolation's a great example with the very advanced AI they gave them to really sell you on their hunting nature. They can always get an idea of where you are via the secondary AI informing the main AI of the actual enemy. It's really interesting on technological level. But we're here to talk about movies.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, these things are tough when the predators struggle with them.
I was gonna say, when like taking one of these things down is like a Yautja rite of passage, they're fucking metal.
Yeah. As said, in Alien they're really good, but in Aliens, when they're taking on literally trained military soldiers, you can just tell they are like complete creature predators. They're just terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned with the acidic blood, they actively punish things that hurt them.
Yep.
It's terrifying when, you realize that we're not at the top of the food chain.
Yeah, they certainly put humanity to shame.
I mean, to be fair, some of the people in those movies just actively make things harder than it has to be.
It depends on the movie. I mean, in Aliens, they're very, like, competent soldiers, a bit reckless, maybe, but, like, ultimately, there isn't a lot you can do to a xenomorph. Like, that's the obvious fire weakness, but you've got to learn that. Like, you wouldn't just know that looking at them. They don't scream, "Hey, I'm made of wood, fireball me."
Yeah, I feel the xenomorph is the perfect personification of that Arthur C. Clarke quote. He said, two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe, or we are not. Both are equally terrifying.
Yep. Hopefully you have a wizard on you who doesn't care how small the room is.
Solid round one pick, Peter. I think this is probably, well, it's definitely one of the most iconic horror monsters.
Yep, it's my
Oh, for
definitive
sure.
go-to horror monster.
Transitioning from that, Chris, spook us.
Indeed. I'm going to follow that up with one of the most iconic movie killers, and I'm going to put forward Frederick Charles Krueger from the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
This is God.
Okay, okay.
I've had nightmares about this guy.
So did I, that's why he's here. So, Freddy is the son of Amanda Krueger, a nun who tended to the criminally insane. One night shortly before Christmas, the guards were in a hurry to go home and accidentally locked her in an area with the most insane and violent inmates for several days. It's not hard to imagine what happened next. And when you grow up being called the bastard son of 100 maniacs, murder seems like a predisposed path, and it's exactly the one Freddy went down. He became a serial killer notorious for murdering children, and the local news and stories called him the Springwood Slasher. But after being caught and acquitted on a technicality, the parents of Springwood took the law into their own hands. They tracked him down to the boiler room where he took his victims and set the building on fire, burning him alive. But according to Freddy himself, that's where his fun really began. He returned from hell as a dream demon and began to terrorize the children of Springwood in their nightmares. With his new powers, whatever harm came to his victim in their dreams happened to them in real life. He could invade and shape the reality of other people's dreams and received his power from the fear that his victims had of him. His proclivity for murder was now seasoned with a burning hatred for the parents who killed him, and he focused his new efforts on their children. Despite being able to alter the reality around him to carry out his mission, he kept his own appearance the same to others: dark pants, a red and green sweater, a wide brim hat, a glove with razor sharp knives for fingers, and of course a face horribly burned and disfigured from the events of his own death. Over the years since his demise, Freddy has cropped up a few times in Springwood to carry out his vengeance, but each time one or more of his victims are able to overcome their fear or possess their own special abilities to turn the tables. But each time he's defeated, Freddy comes back, more determined, violent, and vengeful than before. Because as long as just one person knows his name and harbors even the smallest fear of him, Freddy Krueger will never disappear.
That's what happens when you fuck with a dreamin'.
I haven't seen the movies, but now listening to it, he's very similar to Pennywise. So I wonder if there's some inspiration there.
A little bit, except Pennywise is like a primordial, like cosmic being, whereas Freddy Krueger is a demon.
Yeah, I know. I know there's that
Think
difference,
of it-
but I'm just saying, I'm talking like how they stay around and all that. It's just similar. That's what I'm saying.
I actually had a different slasher in mind of who he's similar to.
Who's that?
I don't know, Doc. Why don't you tell me?
I wanted to talk about this a little bit more, but that's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I do
Yeah,
have
like
one
this-
next, but
Yeah, no, this, like, and I think I mentioned during the Dino Crisis playthrough, like, I saw the first Nightmare on Elm Street when I was maybe 8 or 9, and, like, after the end credits rolled, I had decided, yep, I'm just fucking done sleeping for a bit.
I think my favorite thing with Freddy is actually his weapon, the clawed glove. It's like a twisted Wolverine.
Oh, yeah, and nobody else has really done that, like, before or since.
Yeah, like so many killers just go for the default. Oh, I've got a knife. Oh,
And my thing, like,
a twisted handmade weapon.
And my thing, like, the main reason my wife and I still, like, to this day continue to enjoy those movies is just how fucking ridiculous this guy is.
yeah, that's the whole. A lot. Well, I haven't seen the movies yet, but I heard he's kind of funny. I think.
Yeah, he's very, I don't want to say flamboyant, but it's like a game to him.
Edward Scissorhands would never.
Oh, no.
Well, with that, I will now move on to my next pick. I think Freddy was a pretty good, solid entry. Again, another respectable pick there. But I'm gonna go with another classic. And though you've taken a dig at me a bit, Peter, he's still one of the most iconic, influential killers in movies. Pretty much inventing the horror genre in a way, or at least reinventing it. I'm going with Michael Myers.
Respect.
I don't know why you're calling me out. I like Myers.
Yeah, but you said basic knives and stuff, so.
Fair.
So yes, he does use the basic conventional kitchen knife, butcher knife, whatever you want to call it. But he is the penultimate killer that, which surprised me a little bit. I find out that he actually originates before Jason does. I didn't know that for a while.
Yeah, he's like in terms of modern slashers, he's kind of the OG.
Yeah, and not only that, the movie was. There's a few things I know about outside of Michael Myers himself. Because of the movie, like, it was originally going to be, it was a really low budget, and it was a huge success story that spawned basically the reignition of the horror genre. Like, there were some early black and white horror movies, you had Dracula and stuff like that, but horror didn't really expand like it did until Halloween. And to speak more on Michaels himself, he's your typical, hush, he doesn't, I don't think he speaks at all in the movies. Like I said, I
don't think he does either.
He's quiet. He is a demented kid, basically born of an evil spirit or something like that. He was like just evil from
Evil
birth.
incarnate is how he's described.
His first goal is to kill his sister. I forget why. And she wins in the end, but he just doesn't stay dead. He doesn't stay down. And I think that someone that just does not give up, which most of these killers won't, is something pretty crazy. And again, because he's kind of just the OG slasher, like you could see a little bit of his inspiration in everything else.
Yeah, he's iconic for his stalking, the iconic music that plays when he's stalking you.
You know that song will be playing here a little bit, but they'll probably copyright me.
Yeah. Another good thing, in Dead by Daylight, he's the most diverse killer to play from the movies in terms of gameplay. He's got add-ons that change up his playstyle majorly. He can insta-kill survivors, or he's got one for wall hacks. He is literally like the perfect stalker character in the game.
That's the other thing I want to talk about a little bit. Because of Michael Myers and the success of Halloween, his inspiration did inspire some stuff when I was younger. There were game modes in Halo and Call of Duty that people just called Michael Myers, and just a little bit of that I've always kind of appreciated for just influencing my childhood a little bit, even if it was indirectly.
Yeah, this is actually one of the ones, because I was big into horror movies when I was a teenager. This is actually one that I never got around to actually watching, like, start to finish, until I was in the military.
And did you like it?
Yeah, like, I thought it was good. I know AJ thinks, AJ personally doesn't like Michael at all, but I think it's okay.
I've never really been a fan of horror movies myself, unfortunately. However, I have been a fan of the idea of horror, and whenever you think of that, Michael Myers always pops up, especially as the grandfather for the slasher genre.
I'm just gonna say, in terms of horror, I think in modern day he is just the number one.
We'll peek behind the curtain. We actually had a guy in Galveston, I think 2 years ago, who dressed up exactly like Michael, like exactly like the picture you just posted, and just walked on the beach.
Yeah, people do like dressing up just to be goofy, because like there's this weird kind of goofiness. Like he's so serious in the movies that the juxtaposition of him being goofy in real life just is kind of funny.
Oh yeah, no, and like this dude on the beach, like he didn't do anything to people. He was just walking around, but he did get the cops called on him, and when they finally like detain him and get his ID, dude was like a really wealthy local lawyer who just had some downtime on a day off and decided to just go out as Michael.
That's my dude right there, Michael Myers. But I'll pass it along to Sam here.
Respectable choice.
There also is that video of him wearing heels, and it's great. But I mean, if we're all gonna go for some normie picks, I might as well pick something that's even more classic, I would have to say, than Michael Myers. Because when did he come out? In the 90s? The 80s? Late 80s?
I think it was the 70s.
I
Yeah, I think it was the late 70s.
Oh. Okay, well, I guess I'm wrong, because I'm going a little after that with The Thing from The Thing.
Halloween was 1978, and The Thing was a little after that. I think it was 84.
82.
So yes, Halloween does debut before it.
Yeah.
Still, the thing is another quintessential horror movie pick, so nice choice.
Very much. As a as a group of people in an Alaskan base, already isolated, it's a cold environment. It really does not help any situation that they are trying to struggle through in the first place. And then they get attacked by a creature. What is it? I don't know. It's the Thing. It's a shape-shifting monstrosity that can take the form and sound of others, including a dog. Wasn't that great? Ah!
Yeah, I saw this and the remake that came out in, I think it was 2012.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, I personally enjoyed both, but then again, I'm very good at suspending my disbelief when I watch movies.
I'll tell
Same.
you, I heard how good the first one is. I haven't
mean,
seen it,
it
so I
was
don't know too much
also-
about it, but a shapeshifter that can just do what it wants, basically, and is actively aggressive for whatever reason.
Yeah, in my humble opinion, the first one was such a masterpiece because of how well it used practical effects.
I think that was...
Yeah.
We had this exact conversation a couple weeks ago.
Not to mention that this thing is very also well known nowadays for inspiring one of the most recent popular games, The Lockdown, Among Us.
Oh yeah, I guess there is some pretty clear cut, isn't there?
It's very much directly inspired by.
You gotta respect John Carpenter.
Yeah.
He's a hell of a director.
Oh yeah, and like this thing, like there's, I'm pretty sure like one of the more iconic images of the Thing, like when it's mid transformation. Like if you look at it in certain lights, it looks like Mama June, and there's fucking nothing scarier than that. So
Not Mama June.
I don't know what that is.
count your fucking blessings and do not look into it.
You know what's... I do think this is the least Norman pick out of the four, but I still appreciate this. The Thing is just iconic. I mean, all these first round picks are iconic, let's be real.
I mean, it's still a pretty normie pick in my opinion, considering in comparison to the rest of my list.
Did they ever like explicitly say what the Thing is?
Maybe, but if they did, I'll put it on screen. If not, yeah, there'll be nothing on screen.
Well, all right
They
then.
don't, because I'd rather have it not explained.
I think it's...
Fear of the unknown.
There are certain things that you kind of don't want to explain because it's more fun that way. So
Yeah.
Fair point.
However, there is also the horror of knowing what is to come and what your fate entails.
I was
And-
gonna say, yeah, like if these things have like a little shop of horrors, like don't feed the plans alien conspiracy that they're planning, I kind of want to know about it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, when you go the opposite direction and you know what the creature is, and you fear of what it can do, and you have no way to stop it, then that just creates a whole different kind of horror. Which is why my next pick is going to be the alien life form from Life.
what is that?
I don't think I've seen this one.
This is a single-celled organism that was found on, I believe, either a meteor or on Mars, that was experimented on by some scientists in a space lab. So, just to be able to see if they can get this thing alive again, and they got it to react. They got it to move. They got it to hunger. And this small organism started to grow slightly. Started to latch on to any little bit of food it can get its hands on. And then it got big enough to the point where it escaped its enclosure and attacked the scientist that was experimenting on it, and started going throughout the entirety of the space station to attack everyone on it and cause a plausible threat to the rest of Earth. Because this thing is in orbit.
Huh.
Never seen this thing before. Just from this first image, it looks really cool.
And I really don't want to spoil it, but at the very end, there is the chance that the people have to get rid of this creature forever. And I will leave it at that. Also, that is a link to the trailer if you want to see that, because it is something.
I'm very
That's
curious
cool. I
about
mean-
this one.
Yeah, like tis the season. I might actually go and look into watching this.
It's one of the few horror movies I actually watched and very much enjoyed, and was like existentially scared
Huh.
because of the danger this thing poses.
Just from the first image, it kind of reminds me of a face hugger.
It kind of starts out that way. It doesn't just hug your face.
Yeah, I figured.
I'm curious to see what it looks like when it's like bigger. Like what does it look like when it's actively killing people? Is that what it looks like?
It kind of looks like that, but it kind of looks like it's bigger. It's just bigger. It's hard to explain without giving away spoilers for the very end of it.
Fair enough. We do want to try to keep these as spoiler-free as we can, although some of these are so old that you've probably been spoiled on already if you're not like 5 years old.
I feel like there's an obligatory spoiler warning for this video.
I'll put it in the beginning right after the intro. I will put a spoiler warning and I'll put all the this different series in the beginning.
Movie titles.
Please do.
Yes.
Series or movie titles, whatever it is.
I'll throw a few fake ones in there so people don't know which ones are which ones are actually in the movie. Or in this-
Advent Children? No way. Who picked that one?
But anyway, I think that I'm interested in this. I'm gonna have to watch this movie now. I'm gonna put that on my list of movies to watch.
It's good. I recommend it. It's one I wanted to recommend earlier, but couldn't because list.
Fair enough. I didn't know this movie, so I couldn't steal this pick.
Yep.
That being said, I do know another movie.
Oh, what's your movie then?
So we're going from one sort of amorphous blobous creature to another amorphous blobous creature. In fact, the amorphous blobous creature, the Blob.
Oh no, not the Blob.
So I've only seen the 1958 version of this, aka the original version of this movie. It still holds up pretty well aside from practical effects. I'll say that now.
Yeah, still a good version.
But the Blob, as the name suggests, is just a blob. It doesn't have a mind. It doesn't have really much to it. It's just a blob that came out of a meteor, and it just starts eating and absorbing people. They don't show it in the 1958 version because, effects were only so good back then. Even the blob in that movie looks pretty bad, I'm not gonna lie. That's like the worst thing about the movie. But the blob itself is terrifying. It is weirdly both slow and fast. Slow when it needs to be, pretty fast when it has to be. They don't show it too much, but they basically get stuck in a room with this nurse, and it's that size. It's probably about the size of your average cat, I would say. And it takes this woman down, and you can kind of tell it's sort of acidic as it's consuming people. So you're basically both being burned and asphyxiated as it's absorbing you to its mass. And it has the infinite potential to grow. So it could just keep growing and growing and growing as it's absorbing natural life. Anything that is organic, as long as it's like meat, not plants, as far as we know. It's the first one. And the only way to defeat it is with cold. In the movie, here's a spoiler for you, so be wary of that. In the movie, they had to beat it by getting in a bunch of CO2-based fire extinguishers because they're so cold. So that is how they had to and they couldn't even fully just defeat it. They just had kind of shrunk it and then transport it to the Arctic. So you just can't. You could shock it and then set it ablaze, but that doesn't really stop it at all.
Where it went ahead and became the thing.
I was gonna say where it mutated and proceeded to fuck up an Arctic research team.
Yeah, pretty much. Who knows? Maybe they are the same monster. This is just the pre-evolution. But yeah,
Pokemon evolution music.
The Blob. I just find it something that you can't stop, and it's not only that, it's silent. You can't hear it coming unless it's knocking things over, but it itself does not really make noise. So you have a silent killer that just absorbs you and leaves no trace. It took them forever to figure out what was going on in the movie. Only at the
Interesting.
very end did the whole town realize, oh, this thing's, and by that point it was already huge. It was like toppling buildings.
I mean, realistically, that is kind of how it would go, right?
Pretty much.
Especially these days, like you'd probably think it was just somebody pulling a prank or doing something stupid. You wouldn't realize well, the people at large would not realize the danger until it was far too late to really do anything about it.
And even if you got like people to record it, people would be like, ah, it's just CGI or something, you know?
Exactly.
So yeah, it still holds up these days, and the fact that like it can just get you and you have no warning of it is terrifying.
I know Fox News will be on it.
The Blob. I just wanted to shout it
Very
out.
nice.
I appreciated the older movie for what it was. What about
It's
you,
up to beat
Chris?
the classics.
What about you, Chris? What movies you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking, looking across the board here, we don't really have a vengeful spirit yet. So I'm going to go ahead and put one of those forward. I'm going to posit Mr. Nobody from The Traveler.
Killing us with his confessions!
Well, then allow me to set the stage. It's a rainy Christmas Eve and 6 police officers are working the shift at the precinct. Suddenly, a stranger comes in from the storm and matter-of-factly tells the officer at the front desk that he wishes to confess to murder. He's immediately taken into custody but not positively identified. The man himself gives no name, insisting that he be called Mr. Nobody. Nobody informs the officers that he'll confess to 6 murders and proceeds to do just that. And as he describes each murder, one of the officers in the building dies in exactly the way that Mr. Nobody details. But he never leaves his cell, nor the supervision of at least one other person. And as the bodies start to pile up, the remaining officers make the connection that Nobody resembles a transient that they had arrested in connection with the disappearance of a detective's daughter about a year prior. When they were unable to prove his guilt, they took to beating and torturing the man to coerce a confession. But this man should still be in a coma in a medical facility after what they'd done, and they call the facility to confirm as much. To their horror, they discover that the patient in question died earlier that night, the same time Mr. Nobody walked through the doors. The officers begin to suspect that he's the vengeful spirit of the man they tortured, but Nobody continues to confess, and officers continue to die until only one remains, the detective whose daughter had gone missing. Nobody confesses that he was indeed the one who murdered the detective's daughter, and the detective realizes that Nobody cannot kill him if he can't hear the confession. To this end, the man deafens himself, and the spirit of his daughter appears and gives him the one means to fight back, Mr. Nobody's real name. So with his name invoked and his power stripped away, the dude was powerless as the detective shot him and caused him to fall out a window to his death, ending his reign of terror.
Damn. There's another movie I need to watch. This one sounds cool.
It's pretty good, yeah. Definitely on the psychological thriller side of horror, but yeah, Val Kilmer played Mr. Nobody very well.
I will say thrillers to me sort of count as horror because usually they kind of go hand in hand.
Usually, yeah.
I'm not gonna say always. There are a couple exceptions.
Well, this one certainly did.
Yeah, no, this dude, he sounds. I mean, I appreciate that he was targeting the people that did him wrong, even though he did wrong in the first place. Like, basically, the lesson, it sounds like, is it's kind of the Batman thing. We don't use we don't use their weapons, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, but definitely, and that's the thing is like, how do you avoid someone who can kill you just by like describing how you're gonna die?
That is a power. I don't even know how to really say much to that. He tells you in detail how you're gonna die. It could be very simple, or it's basically a version of the Death Note, essentially.
I was gonna say it's Death Note with less weaknesses.
Exactly. Yeah, it's Death Note if it was a D&D spell with a verbal component, and nothing else. But yeah, unless you've been taking Death Notes, there's no way to avoid it.
I like this one. This is a sleeper one. I would not have thought of this and never heard of this, but I like this one.
Yeah. Yeah, most of my picks are going to be scraping the bottom of the obscure bucket here, I think.
It's good to broaden horizons.
I am there to go with you. I will be picking obscure picks as well.
I mean, you did pick the alien life form from Life, which I had also never heard of, so it's alright. Me and Peter got the normie picks. You guys get the obscure ones.
Hell yeah.
We got this.
High five!
Speaking of heater, what's Normie pick number 2?
Well, tell me, would you like to play a game?
Oh boy.
Oh god.
I
Yep,
choose
there it
John
is.
Kramer, the Jigsaw Killer.
Hello. You don't know me, but I know you. I want to play a game.
This dude is not an innocent murder. I don't care what he says.
So,
Yeah, no,
Jigsaw
like,
reinvented horror with trap-focused, torturous nature. He's a fascinating character with a more complex morality than a lot of other killers, especially explored through Saw 2 as a film. He's just badass with a very brilliant mind, playing mind tricks with people's lives. He researches people, follows them, really gets in their head, plays with their family. There's a twisted logic to him. Sometimes you can kind of agree with him on some of his perspectives on certain people's lives, but then you kind of have to remember that his victims aren't just that one single act. It's kind of an interesting, like, moral playground.
Yes, the one person who was friends one time with the person who did a crime of jaywalking once.
I was about to bring up a point. I saw a video and someone made a good point about this. Jigsaw, in his mind, the way he treats crime is all crimes are treated the same. They all have the same weight to them to him. So because you're simply breaking the law. So to him, any crime is worthy of death because you're breaking the law.
I think it's interesting though, because it's not inherently death with Jigsaw. You fight to stay alive practically. His whole morality system is you have to want to live, which is kind of interesting. It's like a survival test. It isn't Michael Myers where he just wants to stab you. It isn't Ghostface where he wants to scare you. He's actively got like a good cause in some way behind his actions, even if he does it in a very twisted way. There's like a logic you can kind of agree with in like a isolated scenario kind of way.
I wouldn't exactly call his cause good.
I
Yeah,
mean,
but like you can kind of understand his logic, right? He's like Thanos, right? He's wrong, he's the villain, but you kind of get it.
there's an old saying that goes, the way to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
yes, there is.
I wouldn't say this is paved with good intentions, though.
I mean, there is. You see it with his apprentice. I will avoid spoilers here and there. But his apprentice, Chi finds out through his teachings and going through a trap herself that, like, Chi finds new value in life and sees his way of thinking, and that changes her life for the better at the time. It's interesting. It's a lot more, like, morally complex than just man's a monster, he wants to kill people.
I want to watch
Yeah.
these movies, but I don't do good with gore fests.
Yeah, that's kind of what those were. But yeah, this was one of the ones that I was planning on putting forward, but I wanted to get Freddy out there in round one because I figured he was going to be a popular choice.
I think you're right, because Jigsaw is still popular, but he's less popular than the top killers.
Well, cool thing, I think, because the first movie, like the whole experiment was that movie, or with that movie, was their budget was so laughably small that they basically tried to see if they could, like, produce a movie using only a single set.
And it succeeded and created, I think, 10 movies plus a game.
Yeah, it's going to be 11 next year.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, Jesus.
Is it going to be good, though? Because I know after, like, the third one, it just became bottom barrel.
I've heard Saw 10's good because it's back to focusing on Kramer himself. It kind of tells you a bit more about his character and explores his perspective. It's very focused on him. A lot of the others kind of just devolved into here's another character that's associated with it, and another one, and here's this thing, and here's that thing. And it just, yeah, it kind of gets messy later on, but, you know.
Don't
Saw
watch
1 and
all
2 are really
movies.
worth watching. 1 and 2 are really worth watching. I can highly recommend 2. It's probably one of my favorite horror movies.
I thought 3
It
was
is
also
pretty
kind
good.
of, I thought 3 was also kind of part of it.
3 is, but 3's controversial. I'm not a big fan of 3.
Alright, so if you're going to watch these, watch 1 and 2 definitely, 3 and 10 maybe. That's what it
3's
sounds
kind of like wasted potential as a movie. It's got a good idea, it just doesn't really do it right.
I still say, based on that, maybe watch 3 if you really like these movies. That being said, let's move along.
Alright, I've picked some very normie picks. So, shall I do something a bit crazy?
Curious.
I think you should.
Let's get crazy. Let's get wild. Let's get weird.
Alright, let's get weird. I choose Willy
What the fuck is that?
Weasel from Willy's Wonderland.
What the fuck?
What?
So,
All right.
this movie is a comedy horror movie where basically Nicolas Cage is playing a character called the Janitor. You never find out his name. Nicolas Cage does not speak the entire movie, and he literally just goes around beating up discount FNAF animatronics. It's really funny.
I'm already in love with the idea of this because this sounds hilarious.
It is great.
That
I genuinely recommend it.
That looks so ridiculous. I love it.
Yeah,
William
so
Afton would never.
this literally, I couldn't do the FNAF movie because of the video game's originality, so this is my fill-in. It's a really funny movie. Like, you just go the whole movie just watching Nicolas Cage just go, like, kung fu fighting, killing animatronics. It's kind of crazy, and there's, like, just some wacky side quest stuff. Oh, it's just... It had to get my vote for just my out there pick.
Also,
I have-
I am definitely. I am adding this to my must-watch.
Yes,
I have a
me
question.
too. But what? Yeah,
Yep.
I got 2 questions, but Sam, go first.
Hit me.
Okay, is one of the animatronics a bee?
Not to my memory.
Damn it! So he doesn't go. No, not the bees.
How did
No!
you make the theatrical cut of that movie? I watched that movie recently. It's not in the theatrical cut. It drove me insane.
Damn.
But no.
But he also doesn't speak in the movie, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So, next question.
What makes this a horror movie exactly? I'm curious because it sounds more like a comedy right at the moment.
It is a comedy. It's a horror comedy. So, like, there is, like, ominous shots and, you know, your usual, like,
So-
bloody scenes. Like, the animatronics kill people, but, like, it's more funny than it is scary, I will admit.
But it does have the horror tag where I had to look it up.
So, all right. So it's kind of like Gremlins, where it's really not scary, but it is tagged as
Yeah.
horror.
Yeah, it's closer to a Freddy Krueger than a Michael Myers, but, you know.
It's
Okay,
like
fair
Also,
you.
that thing looks like a creature that I would not be surprised to learn actually lives in Nicolas Cage's brain.
That creature looks like it's
Um,
cracked out of its mind.
Yeah, I won't
Also
spoil
that.
the whole plot, but let's just say they've taken the whole FNAF idea of humans possessing animatronics very literally.
I'm,
Have fun with
Interesting.
that.
I'm very
Plus crack.
curious because this looks like like if you like horror but you need like a break, or you're trying
Yeah,
to
it's a
like,
very
let-
silly horror movie. But it's got some like twisted stuff to it.
This-
Just go watch Willy's Wonderland. It's a out there movie.
It sounds like a palate cleanser for horror movies, which I can appreciate.
It's certainly
Yeah,
something.
because you figure Little Shop of Horrors was technically a horror movie too, and there's very little that's actually scary about it.
So it's the same thing about Gremlins, not really scary.
Same thing with Ernest Scared Stupid.
So yeah, that's my
Oh,
sort of
God.
this list. Carry on.
I like it. I like it.
And carry on we shall, and we're going back to the normies. However, I have learned in my Pokemon experience that there is nothing more normal than a dude named Norman. But not the Norman you're thinking. I'm putting forward Norman from A Christmas Horror Story.
It's the elves. I fear they may all become infected.
I feel like I've heard of this one.
I probably recommended it up and down to you before. But picture this. Trouble is brewing at the North Pole. A mysterious virus has begun to plague the elves, turning them into non-jolly and vulgar zombies with a taste for flesh. And as this zombie apocalypse spreads, it falls to Santa Claus himself to take up arms and fend off his transformed employees to save Christmas. The endeavor takes a toll, as the surprisingly combat-adept head elf has to cleave through his former workers and eventually even Mrs. Claus after the latter is bitten and transformed. As he fights his way to a lull in the bloodbath, Santa is set upon by Krampus, his arch-nemesis and vile enemy of Christmas. As the two engage one another in battle, Santa finally gains the upper hand. But as he's about to bring his axe down, Krampus speaks, calling him Norman and pleading with him not to kill him. As Santa hesitates, Krampus turns into a harmless man with holiday antlers. And as the pleading continues, the reality of the situation sets in. The pair are surrounded by mall employees in elf garb at a Christmas charity event, brutally maimed or killed outright. Meanwhile, Norman the Mall Santa, the weatherman from a local radio station, holds an axe above his head ready to bring it down on one of the few surviving event managers. Having suffered a mental breakdown after arriving at the mall and assuming his role as Santa Claus, Norman carried out a brutal killing spree. He believed the mall setting his workshop, the workers his elves, and the managers his wife and Krampus. The man's pleading causes Norman to regress back into his delusion. He prepares to kill Krampus, only to be brought to his immediate demise by the police arriving and opening fire on him. He collapses to the ground dead, still trapped in his dissociative state, that of the zombie killer Santa.
That that first the set it's so like goofy and funny, and then as it transitioned, it just became sad.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that kind of like struck a heartstring with me.
Mm-hmm.
Guy.
Also, this is a good movie to transition into Christmas from Halloween. I feel like it's a good transition
It
movie.
absolutely is. Yeah, I have two picks back to back that technically take place on Christmas Eve. So
Oof.
Damn.
This one kind of hurts actually.
yeah, no, it was one of the because when you're watching, you don't know that's what it is. Like going back and watching it again. Like yes, I can see the little hints that they kind of drop throughout the movie because the movie itself is an anthology. It's a bunch of different stories that ultimately come to a head with this, and the clues are there. But my first time watching it, this took me completely by surprise.
I want to watch this one.
I cannot recommend it highly enough. Like I'm pretty sure it was direct to video, but it was so fucking good.
It sounds like I gotta give it to the director because it sounds like this is very masterfully done.
Yeah, and like between every story, like it cuts back to fucking William Shatner as DJ Dan in the radio box, just talking about like a tragedy that's going on at the mall, like in between these like other set pieces that are going on. And then in this final climactic scene between Santa and Krampus, you find out like, oh wait, like all of this is connected.
Damn.
I want to watch this one. I really do.
Bars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you can't find it on a streaming service, I'll loan you the physical copy.
You guys have been suggesting some solid movies here. I'm very interested in some of these that I haven't heard of. Peter, you're kind of quiet over there. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's an interesting take, as you said. It's a good like Halloween/Christmas movie. You can kind of segue it. It's like a kind of when I was thinking Halloween/Christmas, my brain was instantly thinking Nightmare Before Christmas, but this is a lot more like twisted.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we'll do a movie like just a flat movie one next year. But this one seems interesting. Just the
tragedy behind the horror.
Exactly. I don't really know how to like go from there. Except I do, because I also have a tragedy behind the horror.
Yes, let's hear it.
So I had to research this a little bit because I wasn't sure if it was considered a horror movie. After a little bit of Googling, it does have the horror tag. And if you've seen this movie, I have not, but I have heard tales of this poor creature. Peter, do you remember earlier? Sam, do you remember earlier when we made that radioactive joke?
Yeah.
Well, this is the one, the only, the shin of Godzilla's.
God damn it!
Oh yeah.
I got sniped. Holy fuck.
I wanted to get like one out there pick, and this was it. But I also just like this is a perfect transition period from one tragic person to a tragic creature. And I don't know. Like, again, I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know full details. But from what I understand, Shin Godzilla is a Godzilla that's just being overwhelmed by its power. Like it is becoming too much for its body to handle.
In fact, it's even rapidly evolving as it does, and you can watch as when it first uses its atomic breath, its bottom jaw literally splits apart.
Oh yeah.
Here's that exact image. Like it's almost it just looks so in pain. I feel bad for it. And I mean, in most movies, depending on which ones you watch, Godzilla's not actively attacking humans aside from the first couple movies. But in this one, it's just it's just pure rage incarnate because it's just in so much pain.
Yeah, this version of Godzilla exists to evolve and destroy, rinse, repeat, ad infinitum.
Like this is basically a more modern take of the original Godzilla, I'd say, because it's just what happens if nuclear arms gets too out of control. Like it's non-stop destruction and it's just pain. I also feel bad for when it like evolves into the kind of goofy looking form. I forget if I don't know if it's its early form, but when it looks like this.
Oh yeah, that's its That's the second form. The tail coming up out of the ocean is the first form, and you never see the body for that one.
And then when it sees, I don't know, from what it seems like, this form to me looks the most miserable of all of them.
Oh yeah, because it's always bleeding, like it's just always spouting blood.
Yeah, it's pretty gross when you look at it.
I can't wait to actually watch this film, but at the same time, I know I'm gonna feel bad for the poor thing. But it's also at the same time, it's killing hundreds of thousands very easily.
Oh yeah, very much so. I mean, just to put the point away.
Jeez, that's like actually like, as you said, very tragic, but also like there's the thing of like you kind of want it to like be killed just for its own sake. You just want to like mercy kill it. Ooh.
There's a lot of body horror in this.
I'm aware the director of this movie, I believe, is the same guy who did Neon Genesis Evangelion, which makes way too much sense.
It kind of does, and I agree with what Peter's saying, where you want it to die just for its sake, but at the same time, you want it to die for your own sake because of how destructive this thing is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a godsend.
And in the picture that Sam posted, you actually see in its fifth form, like after the movie ends, because I don't think they actually go too as like in depth into it as some of the other mediums do.
Yeah.
When it realizes that like humans are gaining the upper hand, it starts assimilating like a human form and human abilities to make itself stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, it is a terror. Like out of all like monster movies, I think this is like one of the most terrifying, and especially for Godzilla, this is probably his scariest form.
Oh yeah, because it's his most malicious by far.
Yeah. Personally, I think the scariest thing about the movie, is that the government who is trying to protect its people are able to do absolutely nothing.
Yeah, just sit by, and I think even at the end, like all they're really able to do is just buy themselves time.
I think, and there's a thing, you mentioned the human form. I think what that represents, because Godzilla is a symbol, it just represents that humans are the ultimate evil, because we just can't stop with trying to make bigger and more destructive weapons. So I think it kind of stands as a symbol for that.
And I forget if it was the director or the character designer or somebody else, but it has been said that like if left to its devices, Shin Godzilla would basically just consume and assimilate the planet and then move on and destroy the next one.
Which is terrifying, so yes, it's another infinite potential growth monster.
Very much so. It's terrifying.
Yep.
If it did destroy everything, though, there is also the like horrifying sadness of it just being alone, suffering, like nothing could put it down. There's like a tragedy too, if that was its future.
Yeah.
The one thing that's really cool, and you kind of touched on it earlier with the atomic breath, is that scene where it first uses that. Its atomic breath functions like an oxyacetylene torch.
Yeah.
Like it starts looking like a flamethrower, but then the beam begins to narrow and it takes on that bright purple thing, and then it just starts cutting through buildings like a laser.
It's a beautiful movie. I still have yet to finish it. I got the last third to watch, but oh my god.
Tell me, like, actually, get with me after you do, and tell me what you thought of the scene at the end with the spikes.
Like I said, I have to watch the final third of it.
Well, that's what he's saying. Tell him.
Yeah.
It's like the very final scene, or like the post-credit scene, or something like that. But definitely let you know, because that creeped me the fuck out.
Yeah,
I might watch this movie tonight because I've been wanting to watch this one, but I've just been busy, so I make time tonight.
Yeah, definitely let me know what you think. I'll happily compare notes with you.
Oh yeah, we'll do it again for the kaiju list.
Yeah.
But Sam, you're welcome for stealing that pick, but I also didn't know you were gonna pick it, to be fair.
Well, now I feel like I gotta one-up it. And how else am I gonna do that besides another tragedy? Let's just keep the sad train going, because what would happen if a biologist scientist lost his daughter and really wanted to bring her back in whatever way he could?
Combine it with his dog.
I was gonna say that.
So he bind it with some plants and bound it with some blood.
I know where this is going.
Ended up creating Biolante.
Yep.
Oh, so that's what Violante is. Is it Violante
Yep.
or Biolante?
I've always said it Biolante, but I think both are grammatically correct.
Okay, this
Yeah.
is another of the Godzilla movies I was interested in watching because it just looks like an
Yes.
interesting creature.
It is Godzilla versus Biolante. It is very tragic, and I believe it's the first Toho film for Godzilla. Do correct me if I am wrong. I am not a Godzilla expert by any chance. But yeah, it is one of the most iconic Godzilla monsters in all of the Godzilla fiction. And just to have that tragedy behind it is so powerful.
Because it's what? It's the daughter, it's Rose DNA, and then it's Godzilla DNA mixed in there.
Yes, because Godzilla DNA is what makes it get that large, chaotic form.
And yeah, it's very crocodilian in the face.
Yes.
This is another one that I've been wanting to watch. Oh god, I can't escape Godzilla
Basically,
movies.
Biolante is basically perfect chaos if it was a grass dragon type.
Heh.
It's a really cool design. I'm just paying attention to the images, just visually. Like, you got the, like, glowing red chest. You've got the, obviously, alligator comparison we just said, and, like, the, like, mouth tentacle arms. That's actually a really sick design.
And there is another form for it,
Yep.
where it's, like...
Biolante is the monster that Audrey 2 wishes it was.
Yeah. There was another form for it where it is, like, more flowery, and it has that large bulb with a flower on top of it. But I feel like the crocodilian version that you could see is physically larger than Godzilla and almost devoured it, is just so much scarier.
Yeah, far more nightmare-inducing.
In that second image, you could see like the leaves coming off its back, so that which really helped detail the plant base for it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the tentacles do too, but mostly I keep looking at those leaves and I'm just like, yeah, that's definitely a plant monster.
Yes. Which this is an amazing way to do a plant monster. Digimon would never. Hydramon. Anyways.
I need to watch. I've watched half the Godzilla movies. I think more than half now. But they're all like the Showa era movies, and then the 2014 Godzilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Showas are all really ridiculous.
Jet Jaguar for the win.
Not all of them are. Most of them don't take things seriously. There are a couple that do have like a serious tone. But
because it was the Showa, it was the Showa era Godzilla where he propelled himself in the air with his atomic breath, right?
yes.
Yes. It's also the Showa era where he did that flying double kick.
Oh
to
yeah,
Monster
yeah.
Chest.
The flying drop kick that flew way too far.
Yeah, the breath one was from him versus Hedorah, and the double kick was from the same one as Jet Jaguar, him versus Godzilla versus Megalon. Fun movie. But Biolante, Big B, I like it.
The big bee, the big crocodilian, almost dinosaur-looking creature. It's just so big, menacing, and I mean, what's wrong with going for dinosaurs?
We ain't got nothing wrong with dinosaurs here. We're all a bunch of dinosaur appreciators.
So cool, and it would look so cool if we went with another creature that was basically just a dinosaur. So I'm gonna go with Rexy from Jurassic Park.
I was really hoping someone was gonna pick this.
In all honesty, I do not consider Jurassic Park a horror movie in and of itself. However, it does have a lot of sequences that are definitely horror in the DNA of their portrayal.
I agree.
Like, with the first T-Rex scene right there, where it's coming out in the rain, it's extremely terrifying. The scene in the kitchen area with the velociraptors, while not the same creature, still also very terrifying.
Yes.
Me and Chris had a conversation about this while playing Dino Crisis, and we both kind of came to the consensus that at least the first one is definitely a horror movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like the first one is definitely a horror movie. It's just that Steven Spielberg and John Williams did a very good job of making you forget that.
Yes, it is very well done, and I appreciate how much effort went into both the practical effects, the CGI, and just the overall composition of the movie.
I agree, and I'm a huge dino nerd, so this is a very respectable pick, in my humble opinion.
I just
And
appreciate these films.
They're just so good, and you know,
Also
just
that.
life finds a way.
Life does find.
I'm not-
Speak
I'm
your
not big
piece.
on dinosaurs generally, or even Jurassic Park as a franchise, but I will admit the CGI is really good, especially for the day. In the first
Yes.
movie, it's like crazy good.
It wasn't even entirely
Um,
CGI. Some of these were actually models, and they had to be very careful because they kept getting wet, especially for this scene.
Yes,
Especially in the
specifically
first scene.
Rexy's. Apparently, like the robot would like turn itself on and start making noises and would freak out the crew.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Also, another thing I want to shout out: Owl Kitty did a really funny parody of this with their cat.
Oh, I've seen that.
Oh.
I do, not really relevant to Jurassic Park, but I do really wish that we had more dinosaur-based horror movies.
Yeah.
We were, again, this is something me and Chris were talking about during our recording, I'm pretty sure. We need more of those. Please, please.
Oh, you may appreciate, Peter, you may... Oh, go ahead.
Solution: we xenomorph a dinosaur.
Oh, God.
Oh, jeez. No, but Peter, you like if you appreciate that, there's another thing they did where like if Jurassic Park used like anatomically accurate dinosaurs, and it's actually the scene in the kitchen, and the Velociraptor, since a real Velociraptor is only about the size of a turkey, it actually can't reach the door handle, and it's just like flapping its wings trying to get up and grab it.
Incredible.
And I mean, just to put the perspective in on the like animatronic aspect of it and how far advanced that was, like that still looks good to this day.
Oh yeah.
I mean, a lot of that comes down to the artists who are doing the actual lining and everything of it to put the detail on.
Yes.
That it does make me uncomfortable. I wouldn't want to stand near it. I have a weird thing with like animatronics and dolls and stuff. I don't know what it is, but I feel so uncomfortable near them.
Yeah. And this is with
Yep.
the old skin-wrapped version of dinosaurs too, so yeah. Also,
30 miles an hour? Fuck that.
that is the lower end of their speeds.
No, that was too high, actually.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh.
But the thing that the bone structure dictates that they were distance runners, so they could last.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. A lot of fossil records now actually suggest they were very adept swimmers.
They were also very motherly. They actually were very protective of their young.
Yep.
Well, we can continue the dinosaur chat in the dinosaur track list.
Yeah!
Tempt me with a good
Anyways,
time.
do you have any sort of dinosaur or horrific creature that you like, Doc?
No. In fact, I hate this thing. It makes me so uncomfortable.
Damn.
So, this is it's sort of an anthology. It is one whole movie, but it takes from different stories. But I don't know. How do you guys feel about scare stories to tell in the dark?
Ah, yes.
That's kind of scary. And there's one particular creature in this movie that made me very uncomfortable. I introduce you, or may reintroduce you, to the Pale Woman. I hate it. I hate it so much. That's just like when you first get introduced in that picture. Let me do a close-up of this thing, and you are gonna feel uncomfortable.
I already feel uncomfortable.
I'm personally partial to the Scarecrow, but this thing is real fucking freaky too.
The Scarecrow too. I agree with you. I generally, but this one makes me so much more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate this so much.
Are those practical effects? Because, oh my god.
I think so.
I think so. And it gets worse. Are you claustrophobic by any chance? Or any of you?
It depends
Not
on
really.
the situation.
Okay,
No.
good. Because when this thing shows up in the movie, what it does is it's kind of teleporting around chasing this one kid. He's already doomed. He's running from hall to hall. and this thing just shows up in front of him. It's just slow walking at him very slowly, and I can't remember the sound it's making, but it's making something very weird. I'll put some audio in here. But so the kid's running for, and eventually he gets trapped between 4 of them in the end of like a crossroads section in the hallway in this hospital. And it's just slowly walking towards him until one of them grabs him and just starts hugging him. And at first you're like, oh, maybe it's not going to do anything. Maybe this is all it was just trying to scare him. It starts absorbing him. It basically it just starts sucking him. He's screaming like he's in pain and suffocating. And eventually he just, before he's fully absorbed, he's choked out. He's just gone. And the thing just kind of disappears. This one unsettles me. So, and the way Guillermo del Toro, I think I said his name right, but
yeah.
The way he describes this thing, I hate it. He describes the hairs on its head as black tendrils. Oh, everything about this thing makes me so uncomfortable, from design to how it just slowly walks, because it's kind of like it's taking like half steps, and so it's just like I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
It almost looks like if you wide frame the woman from PT.
Yeah.
Kind of, but I don't know. It's this one. I just can't with this one.
Yeah.
This is a shivers down the spine one for me.
Yeah, that's some uncanny valley shit, and like given you have that thing with dolls, that probably plays into it for you.
A little bit, but the weird thing is the texture of this thing, and you can kind of tell by looking at it, is more soft.
It looks like paper mache.
It looks like if the Michelin Man had a bad day.
I hate that I agree with you.
Oh yeah, like now that I'm looking at it,
it looks squishy.
It's exactly.
I'm getting some like Jabba the Hutt relation.
I don't want it to be squishy. I don't want it to be squishy. Can it be anything besides squishy?
No, because you can tell how soft this thing is as it's walking, because I'm pretty sure it has a little bit of bounce to it.
Okay,
the better to absorb you with, my dear.
It is soft, but Chris, imagine. I need you to answer this question: is it dry or is it wet?
Oh, I'm not answering that. Neither is that.
I can tell you the hair looks wet. Guillermo del Toro, I hate you. But also, this film, this adaptation of the books into this movie was really good. If you haven't seen it, I should recommend it, but it is gonna make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, like if the person who did the monster design for the movie didn't go up a tax bracket, something is criminally wrong with this world.
Yeah, anyone that worked on the art design, good job, because it is fucking uncomfortable and I hate it.
Yeah, good on them. I might have to skip this one.
It's just weird because it's just weirdly innocent when it's approaching you. Is the thing. Like it doesn't seem like it's hostile. That's what even makes it even worse. Like it's not actively seeming like it's trying to hurt you.
It just looks goofy.
In the worst way possible.
Yeah, and then it just tries to stuff you inside of it.
Ugh. All right, moving on. I'm getting ugh. Just go.
All right. Well then allow me to cleanse your palate with something a little closer to home. I'm going to put forward Wilkes from The Body.
Jesus! That's an actual body! Okay.
Which one is Wilkes? Is it the dude or the body?
Wilkes is the guy not wrapped in saran wrap. So, Wilkes is a sophisticated hitman with a cynical view of human society who on Halloween night has just completed the murder of a famous target. He now has 5 hours to complete the final phase of his job, disposal of the body. Having bound his fresh victim up like a saran-wrapped mummy, Wilkes drags it through the hotel lobby and into the streets, with all passers-by who see him assuming that it's just part of a Halloween costume. Complications quickly ensue as Wilkes is forced to accept an invitation to a local party to avoid nearby police. After chaos unfolds at the party, Wilkes is forced to add another body to his night's kill count and pursue a group of partygoers after they take the body from him in the confusion. Accompanied by Maggie, a woman at the party who had taken an interest in him, Wilkes chases the group into the streets where he murders a police officer in a parking garage. With Maggie helping to frame the others for the cops' murder and tracking their location to a nearby funeral home, Wilkes continues his pursuit. Stabbing and abandoning Maggie in a cemetery on the way, he continues alone. Arriving at the funeral home before the group can burn the body in the incinerator, Wilkes proceeds to hunt down and kill everyone in his way, bringing his total kill count to 7. Having reclaimed the body and brought it back to the disposal location, he calls his employer to inform them that everything is back on schedule. At that moment, he's shot and killed by Maggie, having survived her injuries, and has his own body disposed of while passersby believe him to be a part of her Halloween costume.
I understand Maggie. I'm just gonna say that.
Oh yeah. But like at the end of the day, like Wilkes is a dude just trying to do his job. It's a gruesome job. Don't get me wrong. It's a fucking horrifying, gruesome job. But he's a guy just trying to do his job, and Murphy's Law catches up with him at the worst possible time because everything that could go wrong this Halloween did
go wrong.
But there's one part at the party, and this is one of the things that makes him stand out, particularly in my memory amongst like killers in horror movies. I forget the exact verbiage, but there's a part where he actually explains his cynical outlook on people, like when he's at the party, and pretty much word for word, I get it. Like I really do.
Curious about this one. This is another one I might have to watch because it sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's part of the Into the Dark series.
Oh, I've heard of that. I can't. A lot of these I've heard of, but because I'm only just like getting into horror more. I'm not too familiar.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know exactly how many Into the Darks they did. I know The Body is good. I like that one. Hookah is just fucking weird, and I'm pretty sure the others are okay, though none of them overly stand out in my memory.
Interesting. I appreciate something a bit more subtle over my last thing that made me so uncomfy.
Back to normality.
I appreciate it, honestly.
Oh, there goes gravity.
Okay.
Oh, there goes Rabbit.
I don't really have much to say on this one, but it just sounds interesting. That's really as much as I can say at the moment.
I feel like he sounds like less of a monster and more just someone doing his job. Which
the two are kind of one in this. Yeah, but like the two are kind of one and the same. It's just like the sheer dedication of like what he's willing to do and who he's willing to go through just to complete the assassination of one person is a little over the top.
Yeah, but would you have it any other way?
Oh, not at all.
Exactly.
I think we shall move on then, because we're a bit quiet right now. I don't know what I was trying to say. Silent. I think that's what I was looking for. Peter, round 4, please.
So, I have a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie?
Alright, I already know where this is going.
4.
It's the ghost face! Is...
I'm surprised.
Very nice.
I'm surprised you waited so long for this one, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. So, Ghostface, whether it's the iconic Billy Loomis or any of the others, I could literally go for any of them, even the DVD version, but we're not talking about games, so I'll move on.
We had a whole argument about this.
Yep, psychopathic. He's a great twist, relating to the original identity of the killer in the first movie, and it continues that trend. I really like the idea of a mantle being carried over from killer to killer as a unique idea, even allowing DVD to adapt their own in Danny Johnson with their own take on the character just by getting the rights of the mask itself. There's a lot of like good ways you can continue a franchise that way without relying on one main actor keep coming back over and over and over and over. He's kind of goofy in a fun way, like he's not a professional killer in most of the films. They're just kind of idiotic teens or whatever, just going in way above their head. There's a little like recklessness to them. There's a bit of like ego in there. There's psychopathic-y. There's some actual like, yeah, it's interesting, and it gave us one of the best parodies in a scary movie. So, big up Ghostface.
What's up?
Iconic.
That was something you couldn't stop hearing for a couple years there. The good old days.
All the Ghostfaces. That's my pick.
A good little confession. Again, I have not seen any of the Scream or Scary movies. I know this dude is one of the most iconic. Like, he could have been a round 1 pick for any of us, honestly. If we had a 5th person, they might have been picked it. Who knows? There's one thing about the first movie that I like, and that is a bit of a spoiler warning. So here's your heads up for that. Halle Berry was advertised when this movie was coming out to be like the main star of the movie, and she gets killed off very early in it. Like, she's like the
Oh
first,
yeah.
which is a nice subversion of expectation, like a good way, it was a good marketing tactic. Like, oh, here's this big star, she's gonna be the whole thing. She's the one. This is what you're coming to watch. Nope, she's dead in like however long it takes her to die.
Final
Well, 'cause
girl?
the
What the fuck is
entire-
that?
Well, because the entire Scream series pretty much predicated itself on making fun of the horror genre at large, so it was fantastic.
And we also shout out Neve Campbell, Sidney Prescott, the best final girl. I will hear no argument.
I can't argue, but this
No.
is also another movie that kind of saved horror after a lot of bad horror movies for a while.
Yeah.
So this basically revitalized horror, which is very appreciative. And you can't go any Halloween without seeing a kid with that mask.
Yep, it's
Yep.
iconic. And another DVD quick anecdote I'm going to throw in. Ghostface is the most fun killer to play, because like the survivors, you can teabag at them. 10 out of 10 gameplay.
Like,
I mean-
it's more fun.
Whenever you see a ghost face, it's either a 50-50 of an actual player or someone who's just trying to troll and have fun.
They are goofy boys. It is fun.
There's one other thing I do like about Ghostface, and that's just the fact that anyone can be Ghostfaced.
Yeah. In fact, in one of the movies, it was 2 people.
Yes.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. I never watched any of them.
We don't know which one. Now you know that's a thing, but you don't know which movie.
Correct. What's up?
So fucking ridiculous.
I love him. Goofy boy. Right, let's move on.
We are not going to do honorable mentions because this was a topic I can repeat, although we probably won't do it next Halloween because I like to mix it up every year. So we could do this sometime again throughout the year.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of picks for that.
Oh yeah, no, next year, who knows? We might do candy, we might do just general movies or games. We'll see. That's next year's problem. So Peter, if you would like to grace us with your final pick to top off your list.
Who is
Well,
your
no.
final girl?
My well, it's not a girl. But my final pick is the one that I was kind of questioning you on. I had one that originates from the internet, but later became a movie, very late into its popularity.
God damn it! I know who this is.
A very distinguished gentleman known as Slender Man.
Now, normally I'd argue that he's originally a video game character, but Slender Man was so all over the place, I'm fine with this.
It's a YouTube original short of like found footage horror, and then there was a video game that really blew up the popularity.
Yeah,
Then there was a movie that was out way too late. But
Oh,
Slender Man's just the iconic horror classic. He's a naff in the end, but like his like reputation of starting internet horror that later turned into SCP, creepypasta horror in general. You have stuff nowadays like FNAF and everything is all kind of owed back to Slender Man's popularity. He's iconically monstrous, tentacles, everything. He's creepy, stalking kids and kidnapping them to who knows where. There's a certain level of mystery to him, and the classic found footage horror really works for him in general. Not to mention all the
Respect.
really creepy Photoshop images of him that exist around the internet. He's very iconic and replicatable, I guess, is the point.
I do kind of miss the days when Slender Man was the guy, you know?
He was the guy.
He was indeed.
And you know that, like, this is going to be a little fucked up, but there was the case of the girls that nearly murdered their friend. I think they lived, but barely.
Yeah.
In ICU.
Yeah, so for better or worse, you could see the impact that Slenderman had on just in general.
Yeah, because that was a case where a fictional entity was explicitly cited as a reason for having done something like that.
Yeah, I mean, and they were kids. I think the oldest was 14 at most.
Yeah, babies.
So they didn't know better. They didn't know that it wasn't real. They didn't know it was just stories, more than likely.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that speaks to the cultural impact that Slender Man had.
Yeah, so I kind of owe a lot of internet horror to Slenderman's popularity. I don't think if Slenderman popped off like it did, we'd have what we have nowadays with like a real horror renaissance on the internet.
I mean, heck, even going back to what you mentioned about the SCP, one of their most famous SCPs is the Shy Guy, which is just a rip on Slenderman.
Oh, yeah.
Even beyond that, you have the Endermen in Minecraft, which are based on Slenderman. He's so like iconic. He's influenced even a very kid-friendly game.
Very
Oh,
much
I
so.
didn't realize that. You know what? That makes a lot of sense. How did I not notice that?
How did you not know that? Yeah.
They used to be called Slenderman in beta
I didn't remember that, honestly.
or like pretest.
Yeah, they were talking about that for years.
I never heard that.
Huh. Well, now you've been informed.
The
You're,
Endermen have
only
new context, and I
many years
appreciate
late.
them a little bit more because of it.
I really like the Endermen too, but we're not talking about them today.
No, we're talking about the Slenderman.
The Slenderman, the good gentleman.
It was weird that they made the movie like 4 or 5 years after he started becoming irrelevant.
Yeah. I watched it recently for a movie night. It was not very good.
I heard it was bad.
That's unfortunate.
It's kind of get some friends and watch it and have a fun time bad, but like otherwise no.
I actually have a group for that.
We didn't have Slenderman in the games list, but I'm glad he's here. He deserves it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, good pick. Good final pick.
Indeed.
What a good final girl.
Yeah.
Shush.
Well, then I'm gonna wrap mine up with, I guess you can call her a final girl. Though, Doc, I do apologize in advance for forcing these images on you. I'm gonna go with Mary Shaw from Dead Silence.
Now, who's the dummy?
Oh God.
Oh god, not fucking more puppets.
Uh-huh. So as the poem goes, beware the stare of Mary Shaw. She had no children, only dolls, and if you see her in your dreams, be sure you never ever scream. A ventriloquist in life, Mary was publicly humiliated by a boy who claimed he could see her lips moving. This boy disappeared soon after, and his family, the Ashens, blamed Mary and lynched her without evidence of her involvement. Her last wish was to have her body turned into a doll and buried with her doll collection, which she referred to as her children. During her execution, Mary screamed, and the Ashens cut out her tongue to silence her before the deed was done. After her body was turned into a doll, Mary would rise again. Anyone who dared scream at her true visage would be killed and have their tongues cut out, the same way she herself had been killed. Additionally, she had dedicated herself to revenge against the Ashen family, and the movie reveals that nearly every murder she carried out was in furtherance of the elimination of the entire Ashen bloodline. Mary also stands out as one of the few killers in horror movies to ultimately succeed in her goals, as when she kills main character Jamie, spoiler alert, the bloodline dies with him. A photo album shows her victims throughout the movie having been turned into human puppets, and Mary herself closes the book, her revenge complete.
Damn.
I hate it. Not like I did with the Pale Woman. It doesn't make me as uncomfortable, but I still hate it.
Yeah, and like there were a couple of good twists and turns in this movie. Like there's one part where her like ultimate doll, the one that actually like looks human, does a lot of her dirty work for her, is straight like you see her standing behind like this one character throughout the entire movie, and because of the lighting and everything, you don't really think too much of it. You find out later she's actually like this guy has been turned into a human puppet. She's got her hand in the dude's spine and is working him like a ventriloquy dummy, mimicking his voice.
Ugh.
Yeah, mimics are horrifying also. She could be good friends with Jigsaw with the whole puppet thing.
Yep. But her whole thing is like if you see her and you're silent and you're not related to the Ashens at all, she leaves you alone. But if you scream, like your tongue is coming out and you're dying violently.
I like the idea that you have a way out. I always like killers that you kind of have a way to get out of it if you can.
Yeah, I think the guy who in the movie gave the exposition on like who she was in death, is also the person who like saw her rise again when her body was turned into a doll, and because he didn't scream, she spared him. But at the end of the day, she got what she wanted, and she won.
This is another one I might have to watch, but with all the dolls and stuff, I know it's not going to make me feel good.
May she
Yeah,
live
it's
forever.
yeah, like that's definitely a sort of thing that you specifically might want to watch in a well lit room in the middle of the day.
Not thrilled, but I'll watch it. So for those that don't know, I have a weird thing with dolls, where like they don't necessarily scare me, but it's this weird uncomfortability that they kind of give me.
Unnerving's the word.
I know that feeling.
It's not.
Does that also apply to the Does that also apply to the Matryoshka that your mom collects, or is it more humanoid looking dolls?
No, it's more just like the porcelain dolls that do it for me. And sometimes sometimes like woven dolls, but it's usually porcelain.
They hit the
Okay.
uncanny valley territory.
Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah,
what
like,
Chris said the other week.
porcelain dolls do it for a lot of people.
It's yeah, I just don't like it. It's like they don't scare me. I just don't like it. I don't like them.
Fair enough.
Ugh, disgusting. I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of stuck between two here for the final one. One, I think they're both good in their own right. The problem is, this movie I've seen. You know what? I'll go with the more iconic one. I'll say this for. I'll tell you what my other one was afterwards. But I'm gonna go with another classic horror killer, one that we could have picked at any point, but I'm going with him now. I'm going with one of the OGs, Leatherface. So this is another one I haven't seen. For those that don't know, like one of the classic killers based off Ed Gein, who, if you don't know, was a real serial killer who would kill people and turn their bodies into furniture. And that's somewhat what Leatherface does, although the family in the movies in Texas Chainsaw are cannibals as well. I don't know if Ed Gein was, he might have been, I don't remember.
That seems to be a common trope with real-life serial killers.
Not all of them were. Most of them weren't, actually, but there were like more than there should have been.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple in the among the bigger names in American history that kind of set the standard for that.
Well, they're the more twisted ones. That's who the media pushes, but that's besides the point. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Leatherface uses a chainsaw, one of the worst things I would think to be torn apart by, because that's not just cutting, that's ripping your flesh and bone.
Yeah, it's not a gentle way to go.
Like, that is going to be the most painful way. You might go into shock pretty quickly, which would be nice if you're lucky. I don't know how exactly Leatherface, I don't know if Leatherface is quick, I don't know if he's slow with it. He could be torturous, I don't know. I just know that he gets his kills. And in those movies, they don't use too much audio cues to like when he shows up. He just kind of pops up on screen, like he's just there all of a sudden, which is kind of scary. Again, we've been over this with the Blob, but he's just there, like no indication for a big dude, because he's pretty tall in those movies, if I recall. I think he's like 6 foot something. So for a big dude carrying a chainsaw to make it no noise and to just get you is absolutely terrifying. I would not want to walk down the street if I had any knowledge that some dude could just show up out of nowhere and I could do nothing about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
Yeah, and like as somebody who uses them for like branch trimming regularly, like your strength means little to nothing in terms of how quickly or slowly a chainsaw works. Like the blade just does its work, and once it's done, you're done. Like the user has very little to really do about it.
The user, it just indicates the direction, that's about it, and the depth.
Pretty much, yeah. Like the user guides, and then the blade does all of the work. And yeah, humans are thicker than most branches, so it's going to be slow and, in all likelihood, very painful.
And just like everyone else on this list, you're not talking him down. I'm pretty sure he doesn't even talk. So, you're not getting out of this. If you, I mean, at least in the first movie, you, as long as you don't go into their house like a dumbass for whatever reason, you should be fine. But if you're ever in a situation with Leatherface, you've lost. It's over. I just wanted to top it off. My other choice, by the way, if anyone was curious, was going to be the Beast from Split. In case you don't know what that is. But I just went with Leatherface. I thought it'd be better.
Nice.
All right, Sam, if you'd like to finish off the list for today.
I have something I could end it with. I'm just very concerned about spoilers. How deep into spoilers would you like me to go for this one?
As far as you think is necessary.
Okay. Well, imagine that you're watching a movie. At least the backstory of a movie. You're like a 4-year-old kid, let's say. A 4-year-old kid who's getting not so kind words from a parental figure. Let's say your mom was pretty abusive. If that would share. There we go. Let's say your mom was pretty abusive and constantly yelling at you and beating you and forcing you to go outside on the porch in winter with very minimal clothing. And on your birthday, no less. And in your teary state, you come across a shiny, bright-looking digital egg. Let's just say that happens, and you use this opportunity to make one birthday wish. To have all the friends in the world. You know, as any 4-year-old would. That's when you meet my choice for this list. Who is gonna be Ukamon from Digimon Adventure 02, The Beginning. Now you look at this creature and it's not too scary. It's not all that menacing looking. It's pretty cute actually. It has bright big eyes, kind of has a baby face. And it's just going around trying to take care of its human tamer. Its friend. And it wants to help his friend make more friends. As the wish was, that's what the wish was. And not knowing how people worked, it went ahead and got him more friends. In fact, his mom stopped yelling at him even. His dad, who was bedridden, was finally able to get up. And people started being a lot nicer to him. And 4 years later, on his birthday, he finds out, or his parents just collapse on him. And him, completely worried about it, is trying to wake them up. Meanwhile, Ukamon just goes ahead and tells them to put in a little more effort. And that's when the shit hits the fan. As you realize that his parents have been dead for 4 years.
Ah.
And Ukamon was puppeting not just them, but other people around during their 4th birthday. This is a Digimon movie, and you watch as these kids behind him creepily are trying to be like, yeah, we're here for your birthday. And then that scene happens with his parents. So he finds out that his parents are dead, and so he reacts the one way any kid would. He gets angry, yells at Ukamon, telling him that he doesn't want him anymore, that he's only hurting him, and goes to destroy his Digivice. Which, after giving it a few good whacks with a bat, it bounces off the dresser that it's lying on, hitting him in the eye and blinding him in his right eye. Now, I don't have a good image to show how what happens next looks like, but I can tell you that Ukaman took it upon itself to help out its trainer, because who wouldn't? And so Ukaman gave him one of its eyes. And so he had a Digimon eye for a good while. In fact, until he was an adult. About like 16 or so. And oh boy. If I was able to show you this kid's eye after it was replaced with a Digimon's eye, it is terrifying. And after being yelled at by the kid for making him look like a monster, his Digimon starts to melt right in front of him. And so he spends the next 4 years until February 29th, his birthday. And guess what just so happens to be at the very top of Tokyo Tower, waiting for a certain day to appear. For anyone familiar with Digimon, seeing a large egg means that that's a Digitama. Having one be super large above Tokyo Tower means that it's a pretty big Digimon. And when you see what hatches from this egg, it looks almost angelic. And it starts to sing happy birthday for its
I don't like where
tamer.
this is going.
And it goes to make everyone its friend, as you can see from the card art.
Jesus fuck.
It'll be
Yo,
accurate.
Cthulhu called he wants his cousin back.
So yeah, that's Ukamon, this adorable little creature. That's
That
it.
thing from the card. That thing from the card is a fucking Dark Souls boss.
Yeah, and this was the first, and that kid was the first Digidestined. Ukamon created the Digidestined to be friends with his kid. Everyone who's the Digidestined was able to be friends with that kid because they have a bond to a Digimon just like him. Ukamon created the Digidestined. And in defeat of Ukamon, the bonds that forced a Digimon to their tamer was erased.
This thing needs to be moved into the recycle bin, and then the recycle bin emptied.
If you haven't seen Digimon Ode to the movie, I still recommend watching it, because oh my god, this was brutal. It's not a horror movie, but oh my god, it gets damn near close.
Like the way this thing's, yeah. Like
Yeah.
the way this thing's eyes look, I'm getting like some Ava Unit 1 vibes in terms of like
Oh,
what
that's
it
not the
is
Digimon.
and what it does. Wait, the what?
The Digimon is the gold thing above it. In the card art, the Digimon is the gold part above it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm talking like the first image you posted, like the green
Oh,
eyes.
yeah. Yeah,
I'm getting like some Ava Unit 1 vibes from that, and then just like what it does and like how it manipulates people, like from behind the scenes. I'm getting like mixed vibes, kind of a la with like Yuno Gasai from Future Diary, and then that little rabbit thing from Quella Magi Modica Magica.
Yep.
The
Oh,
crazy
okay.
thing that I can tell you what what the design is based off of, because I recognize it and I've shown Sam this thing before.
It's a sea angel.
Exactly, it's a sea angel.
Like the sea slug?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
It's
Isn't it a tardigrade?
I don't know. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
But yeah, that's what this thing is based on, and it's definitely a must-watch, especially if you're a fan of Digimon. It is existential, and yeah, that's basically the evolved form of it.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot more
Alright
sense
then.
now.
I was high when I first watched this movie, and I must say, I should not have watched it high.
I have a lot of movies I gotta watch.
I don't
Yeah,
know
there's
a lot
another,
about Digimon, but I am re-questioning my opinion on the franchise.
Yes.
It's a franchise, all right.
Sufficiently creeped out.
Well, now that we have reached the end of the lists here, very all over the place, honestly, with these.
This is actually going to be the hardest part. Like, can we just like, can we not do bronze, silver, and can we just have like varying sizes of gold medal?
No,
Well, fine then.
this is gonna be rough either way. Everyone's list is really good here.
Yeah, like there's really no bad picks here.
That being said, Peter, you get to start us off this time.
Oh boy, I get to bully people!
Yay!
Remember what happened last time?
We don't talk about last time, it didn't happen, it's not canon.
It's canon. It's on the channel.
It's not canon, it's an extended universe. Anyway, as said, it's kind of been difficult to vote. I was stuck between, I know who I wanted to put at the top, and then I was flipping between the other two lists, just up and down, up and down, up and down. I was really doing it the entire time that we've been talking, and when I've been hearing the entries, like, oh, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Unfortunately, Chris, I'm really sorry, I have to bully you again.
Hey, that's fine. Yeah, I had to drop somewhere.
Yeah, it's a case of, like, for once it wasn't anything that, like, particularly was like, I think the thing I have to say with it is, I really like Freddy Krueger. He's iconic, of course. Mr. Nobody was cool. I think with Christmas Horror Story, it was a case of, like, sympathy, but I didn't really scare it. Like, it's not that scary to me. Didn't really strike me as something that's scary. And then with Wilkes, as said, it was more of, like, a kind of job thing of, like, that's just kind of a job, not really a monster or a killer that really scares me. It's just like, yeah, that's just a guy, I guess. It doesn't really have, like, an iconic horror mantle to hide behind, like Ghostface or anything. Mary Shaw was a good, like, turnaround at the end, though. That was actually scary. So, 3 hits and 2 misses just put you at the bottom end for me.
Understandable.
Sam, you had The Thing, which was really need to get around to watching it. I always hear great things. I really need to get around to watching that. I was debating watching it yesterday. To put it on my list, because I know I'd like it, but here we are. The Alien Life Form's interesting. I'm probably going to end up watching that at some point.
I recommend it.
I'm not big on Godzilla, but the Biolante's got such a goddamn cool design that just got instant approval from me.
It's really cool. Like, even if you're not a fan of Godzilla, Biollante is just really cool.
It's a great design. Again, practicality on the Rex from Jurassic Park Rexy is really cool. I really appreciate the visual style, and I get why a T-Rex would be scary, even if dinosaurs are just kind of like to me. I'm desensitized to it. But the frickin' Digimon one, I was like, oh, this is going to lose you points for me, but then you started explaining it, I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ.
I found the scene if you want to see it, like,
Oh, God.
if you want to see it.
It literally, it was going to be, like, the thing that might have put you below Chris for me, but then you turned it around by describing it perfectly, and I'm like, oh, God, yeah. Okay.
Oh, there's a reason I put at the back end of my list, like, ugh.
Yeah. So, Zach. Michael Myers, he's iconic. He's one of my favorite DVD killers to play, so he scored points there. The Blob kind of lost me. It was kind of not, like, I get the fear, but, like, it's not really my horror. Shin Godzilla won me around again, and, like, it kind of had that, like, tragedy, but it's also, like, a monster of, like, radioactiveness, and it's a good combination. The Pale Woman was decent, and Leatherface is iconic, so you kind of just won out on my list in the end.
Alright, normies.
Woohoo.
Speaking of normies...
What do you mean Chris is next?
I know, I'm making a joke.
We're calling Chris a normie.
That's what I was doing.
Normal guy. But, yeah, fuck, a lot of good picks. Unfortunately, though, again, the axe has to fall somewhere, and in this case, that somewhere is Sam.
Aww.
So, really, the big detriment, because Ukamon was a great ringer to come in on the end. I'm kind of a mind with Peter on that one. Like, you kind of lost me in the beginning, and then as the explanation went on, I'm like, okay, no, like she actually put forward a good pick. The two things that kind of set you back for me are Rexy and Biolante, because while both of them are just chef's kiss pinnacles of horror movie monsters, I've been a dino nerd since I was a kid, and I've loved kaiju movies since I was a kid, and so I'm too busy being enamored by the spectacle to find either one of them particularly scary. But the Thing and the alien life form are both just outright fucking horrifying, just in terms of what I've seen that they can do and how they're described. So, good picks. Like, not a single bad pick. It's just, again, the axe had to fall somewhere, and two of those things don't play into my fears or anxieties at all.
I mean, you can see where my fears lie in with the alien life form, the Thing, and Ukamon. Like, those are all in the similar. Oh no.
Yeah. So, silver medal is going to go to Peter. Because Xenomorphs, Jigsaw, and Ghostface, just absolutely iconic, especially like going into more modern horror. But like across the board, good picks, like Slenderman, like playing up the old internet horror stories, so definitely appreciated that. I was not familiar with Willy Weasel at all, but now that I am, I'm going to go and look into that. That image you dropped is just absolutely fucking unsettling, and I'm loving every second of it. I'm here for that 24/7, 365.
Plus, you get Nicolas Cage. Who doesn't love Nicolas Cage?
We do also get Nicolas Cage, and per you, we get a silent Nicolas Cage. I'm very curious to see what that is all about.
It's a fun time.
Yep, and then obviously first place is going to go to Zach. You've got the iconic two start to, like, your bookends are iconic. You got Michael Myers at the start, Leatherface at the back. The Blob, just quintessential old school horror. Like, gotta love that. Shin Godzilla is like, again, just from the direction of that movie, the friggin' body horror that thing puts itself through to constantly evolve and just destroy is fantastic. And while I said the Scarecrow gets props from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, that's mostly owing to his brutality, because the Pale Woman, as you said, is just uncomfortable to look at.
I felt like that was probably, in terms of just creepiness, I feel like the Pale Woman's probably the strongest in general out of everyone.
Correct, yeah.
Appreciate it. We're going double for first there. Nice. Now it's my turn, and Chris, if I could do the gold thing for everyone, I would, because you're right. Absolutely right. Everyone's list is really solid here, so it's hard. It's really going to come down to preferences at the bottom here.
Yeah.
Which is hard. It's coming down to, like, everyone has, like, two things to kind of agree on. Like, the Biolante and Rexy thing you pointed out, I agree on. What Peter said about Wilkes, I agree on, and a bit on Norman, too. And then, Chris, what you said about Willy Weasel and Slenderman, it's like, these lists are so dead even to me. It's hard to put one person last.
Yeah, like, there's really not a bad look in any of them.
I think I'm gonna put Chris last, just for the fact I think I like the Xenomorphs a little bit stronger than Freddy Krueger, and I find the Thing a bit more interesting than Freddy Krueger in this instance.
Fair enough.
Everything, Mr. Nobody, he sounded really cool. I want to watch. Honestly, everything on your list I want to watch now. Mr. Nobody sounded really, really interesting and really cool, so, like, that hooked me instantly. Design-wise, he's not scary, but his powers being what they are, the fact that he's a revenge spirit, super interesting. Norman, like I said, initially I wanted to laugh because it just sounded hilarious, and then quickly became tragic when you started getting into the background details of it, and I felt really bad for him. And then Wilkes, I think, was your weakest pick here, just because, like Peter said, he's just kind of a guy doing his job, even though it is brutal. That kind of takes away from it. Like, he's just kind of doing it because he has to. Which I think makes it less scary, because he's like, I gotta do it. It's not like I don't want to do it. It's not like I want to do it kind of thing. I think
Oh, no, he does.
Oh, okay, well then, it still takes away a little bit that it's a job for him. I still want to see the movie though. Might change my opinion might change after I watch it. Who knows? And then Mary Shaw, you attacked me with that one, but for a fearless that actually adds points in this instance. But oh, it made me so unsettled. Like for me personally, that was probably your strongest pick besides Mr. Nobody.
Yep,
Just
I don't have to win. All I wanted to do was open your mind to movies you might not have seen.
And I will watch all of them. I think I'm gonna go Sam in second.
Fair.
Again, all these lists are really close. This is making it difficult. This is basically a coin toss in my head. I think the one thing that's dragging it down besides, like I said, Biolante and Rexy are both good. I don't see most Godzilla movies as horror per se, but I haven't seen Biolante, so maybe it's scarier when I actually watch it. So I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt there. And then Rexy, I appreciate that more than I think the other two might, for the fact that I think that those movies should be seen more as horror, and I think Rexy is scarier than people realize. Chris is a bit biased because he's got his dino nerd self, so he's like not as scared as he stated. And then
Sure.
Peter said that he's just not a huge fan of the Jurassic Park movies, so I think I appreciate it a little bit more in that respect. But it's still not. I think it's just not quite up there because of how the movies present themselves. Like Chris said, John Williams' music kind of makes you forget it's a horror movie. So I think he was right with that for the most part. Alien life form sounds interesting, but without me having seen the movie, I think that's what's making it a little bit weaker than it probably is. If I watch the movie, it'll probably be even higher. It might even rival The Thing.
It does play into more being a thriller than anything, because I was able to watch it and I am a total wimp when it comes to horror.
Well, like what me and Chris said earlier, some thrillers do dive in a little bit into horror. At least most thrillers do have some horror elements in them.
It definitely does. It just, to me, I was able to handle it, so I feel like it fits more in the thriller category rather than horror, even though it does definitely have that.
In my mind, if it keeps you on edge in a good bad way, then it is horror, at least a little bit.
Yeah.
Ukaman, I'm so mixed on. I'm gonna be real. It's like it's both. I both find it terrifying, and because it's Digimon, I don't find it scary. But also, it's that weird thing of the fact that it's animated makes it seem less threatening than it is.
I should also say that Ukaman is very logical in its thinking processes,
which is terrifying in itself. If you've played Portal or anything like that. And the thing is just iconic. Like I said, John Carpenter films are amazing. I've watched They Live. I love that movie. So, again, I haven't seen The Thing yet, but I know. So that leaves my number one being Peter.
Hooray!
The Xenomorphs. We already knew before going into this, the three of us were going to be like, all right, whoever's going first is gotta get Xenomorphs, because that's one of the other of us is gonna take it. One of the hardest creatures in the universe to beat in its universe, and just having to figure out weakness, the hive mind, all that, being intelligent. It's just the iconic Xenomorph, the iconic monster is what I'm saying. Jigsaw, I hate, not from like the fact of a killer, but just like the fact of his character. I hate him. That doesn't make him bad. I just hate who he is. Just his ideologies feel so backwards, but I think because I hate him makes him a stronger pick. If that makes any sense at all.
I compared him to Thanos in the sense of like you can kind of understand the logic how someone could get to that point.
Which, when you said that, is kind of what helped it more for me. I still hate him. He is not a good person, and no justification he makes is correct.
Yeah, you're not meant to like 100% be on board, but you can kind of see the math.
I can see the math. You just used the wrong equation. That's what I'm saying. But moving past that, Willy Weasel, that shit made me laugh. I'm not gonna lie. Which for a horror list, it's kind of appreciative because the horror by definition doesn't necessarily have to be scary just by design, but it has to instill some sort of fear to you. And something innocent looking can be scary if it has that potential. It's like, whoa, that doesn't seem right. So it just seems, like I said, I still think this is the weakest pick out of everyone's list, but the comedy helps it a little bit, so I'm fine with that.
It was my out there pick.
I'm fine with it. And Ghostface, or Ghost Faces, because it is both one and many. We are Legion. Another one of the icons, like one of the ones that saved the horror genre for a while there. He's just that guy. That's all I can really say. He's just that guy. And then Slenderman is just a low appreciator. I wanted someone to bring up in the games list, but it didn't come up, so I'm happy he's here. That's really as much as I can say about Slenderman.
The boy.
He is the boy, so I'll pass it on to Sam.
Yeah, and for me, I'm just gonna, because all these are just really nice. But for me, it's more about who's the most horrifying to me personally. And I think the lowest on that list would have to be Peter's list. Mainly because it doesn't really, it doesn't scare me as much. Like, I understand the Ghostfaces are all, like, terrifying. And Willy Weasel is a different, out there pick. Jigsaw is also kind of more terrifying than, like, horrifying. But to me, they all still see you as human. Meanwhile, the xenomorph is just a creature that wants to feast and reproduce. It does not care who you are or what you are. You are food. Slenderman, I have no idea anything about Slenderman. It's just a internet creepypasta, and it's horrifying, and it deserves to be where it's at. Like, he is the internet dude, and it's a really good pick. Like, your list is really good. It just doesn't really scare me as much.
That is fair enough.
Yeah. Something that does scare me a little more would have to be Chris's list, because
Fair enough.
again, that is something that is terrifying to me. It's like Freddy Krueger invades your dreams, where for the most part you're kind of shit out of luck because you're stuck in place.
Hey, I'm right there with you, girl. That was my fear until I was like 10 years old.
Mr. Nobody is a whole different level of existentialism. Norman is interesting. I do want to see that movie. It just doesn't really scare me as much.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Wilkes, who I found more handsome than scary.
I can give you that one. He's a good-looking dude.
Mary Shaw is terrifying, though. Don't get me wrong. She's like, I do not. Which just leaves me to put Doc at the top, because
With the sweep.
I mean, you stole Shin Godzilla from me. The Pale Woman is so uncomfortably horrifying. The Blob is your one weak spot. But Michael Myers is the grandfather of slashers. Leatherface, based on a true story, so that has its own horror to it as well. And yeah, it's hard to compete with what scares me more, besides creatures that are going to devour you. And who has the most creatures? Doc.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, he's got the bookends.
Yep.
Like I said, I debated over it, and last time I had to debate, I let McDonald's Man win, and that was a mistake. And you know what? I thought better this time, and I went with Leatherface, and I think that was the right choice this time.
McDonald's
Agreed.
Man.
But doing some maths, which I have already done. Again, I think if we could have, everyone would have gotten the same total points because everyone's lists were pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
In last place with 4 points, Chris, I'm sorry, didn't quite make
That's
the cut.
fine.
That being said, I think out of everyone's list, I want to watch your movies the most, just because they sound so cool. In third place with 5 points, Sam.
Ah.
I'm sorry, Sam. You did pretty good there, but just not quite there.
At least I'm not last again.
Yeah, true. This list was solid. I think if you did, I don't know. I mean, for me, I think if you chose something beside the Violante, you probably would have been a little higher.
Maybe, but
Maybe.
I mean, I chose
regardless,
Violante because
You chose what you wanted to, and I can respect that. Second place, Peter. You did much better than last time.
Redemption. Woo!
6 points. And then, of course, it kind of was already went without saying, but me in first place since I got the sweep. With 9 points.
You did indeed get the sweep.
Yep.
Number one victory royale.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with my list. I agree with what Sam said at the end, that my Blob pick was probably my weakest pick, but I just really did like that movie. And I feel like the Blob's an underappreciated monster, so I wanted to pick it.
Well, Blob also came from like the old, like what I would argue is like one of the golden ages of horror. So it was a solid pick.
Yeah, I appreciate that you guys found the pale woman as unsettling as she was.
But yeah, anybody who's versed in the classics would appreciate the Blob as a pick, and your others were just powerful all around.
I honestly thought the Shin Godzilla pick would have been worse off for people, but it did me better than I figured, which I'm glad about.
It is the most horrifying. Yeah, it is the most horrifying incarnation of Godzilla, with the possible exception of Godzilla Earth.
Sorry for stealing it from you, Sam, but also mine.
Yeah, as soon as you stole it, I had to be like, I have to go with another Godzilla pick. Violante. Violante is scary.
I'm genuinely surprised someone else even thought of Shin Godzilla, to be real with you.
I thought no one would pick it either. And then you go ahead and like, Shin Godzilla. Fuck. Like, Xenomorph, I expected to beat Sniped. Shin Godzilla, no.
But listen, Xenomorph we knew was going to be sniped because we talked about it before. Because
So.
we were all, the three of us before Chris joined, were saying Godzilla, and last night me and Sam were talking, and we said Xenomorphs, and we're like, all right, whoever goes first getting Xenomorphs, right? And we're all like, yep, and it was like, okay. Then we found out Peter was going first, and we're like, okay, there it goes. Peter gets 3 points.
Had to.
But yes, I'm okay with my lot in life. If we are able to find it digitally, and you guys want to have a watch party for Christmas Horror Story, I am all for joining.
I gotta watch all of these.
Same with Digimon Adventure 02, the beginnings. I will watch that again with you guys.
Again, let me know if it's on one of my days off. I have nothing but time and all the willingness.
I will watch Shin Godzilla or the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark with you guys.
Oh, dude, bro, hit me up.
I need to watch Shin Godzilla more than Scary Stories, because I've already watched Scary Stories.
What we've learned from this, Doc needs to start running movie notes.
That being said, who do you guys think the list was the best? Who would you have picked? Vote in the comments. Also, let us know. I always point at the screen now. I've made a weird habit of that. Let us know what topics you'd like us to see in the future. I'm picking the next topic because it is my birthday in November, so I get to pick the topic.
Yay!
I guess I've already picked these, but they were kind of based on the holiday, so. Enjoy your Halloween, stay safe out there, make sure you check the candy.
Watch out for the razor blades in the crunch bars.
And make sure, do not accept apples from any dentists.
Yeah, for real.
Alright, goodbye everybody.
Bye-bye.
Later.
Goodbye.